two generations merge into one to spread the good news of God's personal love. With the help of other prominent Christian voices, the gospel is presented in an easy and open way. You just might get the answer to your prayers.
Hello, this is Barbara Campbell.
And I'm Caterina Viti, and you're listening to Godcast, the Good News Network. We have many channels. You can listen to us on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're really excited. It's just taking off, and we're putting on more podcasts. Each month is a different topic, and stay tuned for great information. Today, we are sponsored by the Spirit of Huntington Art Center, where students with special needs and our veterans are transformed through creative expression.
Do you pledge your love, honor, to keep her in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, to remain united to her alone, so long as you both shall live? Then say, I do.
Our topic today is going to be about relationships and communication and just God's love infused through all of that.
So we have Michael Gary here today, who is, of course, Caterina's fiance, and they're going to be talking about some of the actual dreams and hopes that they have for, and their concept of what marriage is like, what they think the reality of it is, and some of the little glitches they've had so far and how they've worked through it.
I'm so excited to be here with you and Michael, my fiance as well. And we're so excited, and we're going to be talking about some great stuff. We're going to be talking about Pre-Cana and our marriage preparation and conflict resolution, healthy conflict resolution ideas. And we want to share some great insights and information that we learned.
So today we're having a very riveting conversation about a very popular subject, which is relationship. And relationship, of course, in marriage. And particularly right now, we're going to talk about Pre-Cana, which is before the marriage is actually takes place. And what are the expectations and what are the hopes and dreams that we bring into marriage?
We just finished Pre-Cana about a month ago, actually,
Yeah.
at the Seminary of the Immaculate Conception. In Huntington.
Yeah, Immaculate. Yeah, we went there for our Pre-Cana, and we ended up doing the weekend through the diocese sponsored Pre-Cana. I mean, I think it was very fruitful. There's like other ways, I guess, you can do Pre-Cana. Like they have like the sponsor couple, where it's like 6 weeks and you meet up with them.
One of the big topics at the Pre-Cana was communication, and I wanted to mention some really exciting tips about it when you're talking like one-on-one to somebody, not just your spouse or your
not even your spouse, just really like, good communication skills for
your brother, your sister, your friend, saying I instead of you, because you is like more of like an accusing kind of thing, but kind of saying I as like what you think and how you're expressing yourself, sticking to the problem at hand. And I think that's sometimes when you're hurt, you tend to I think it's maybe human to kind of think of past hurts and like past things and to kind of try to bring that up as ammunition and like fuel what's happening now, but to kind of stick to what's happening and kind of let that be in the past and forgive and move forward. Understanding like where the other person is coming from. And it's okay to work on something the next day, not to go to bed angry and upset, but just to have it, like whatever the issue is, to be okay with, okay, I love you, but let's talk about this tomorrow. Like, let's kind of like let it sit and think about it.
I want to make a point too that our whole broadcast really here is always about relationship. It's about relationship with Jesus Christ and having a real relationship with him, and one that really is where he becomes your best friend and he's covering your back and he's alongside of you and in back of you and going before you. And that's kind of the model that we're using for our communication and our understanding in marriage itself. And that's what it's really supposed to be, because it's actually a covenant with not only the two people that are marrying each other, but with Christ himself. So with that in mind, I wanted to ask Caterina and Michael, because they are in the stage of engagement right now, what their expectations have been about what marriage would be like.
For me, my expectation is always, like you said, Barbara, getting closer to God, and each person in the marriage helping each other get to heaven and get closer to God and becoming a better person and becoming holy, really. That's at the heart of it all, and the key. Just growing together and learning more about each other through the good times and the bad, and developing those virtues of perseverance, courage, strength, purity, goodness, patience, all those things to combat all the difficulties of life, and having faith at the core of it is really key.
You always made me aware of what I was doing wrong, how I was falling short. Life with you was joyless.
So now I'm crazy because I don't love you, right? Is that the point?
That's all wonderful stuff, but how do we actually make that happen in the practical world when there's 2 jobs and kids crying and things that aren't going great and people don't feel great every day and people get tired and cranky? How do you hope to navigate that?
I think just a lot of it to being real with yourself and with the other person, and just saying, I'm super tired right now, or
So communication,
I'm super tired, this is what's going on, can you help me with this? Or just really
can you leave me alone?
Or can you leave me alone right now? Or you hit it right on the head, Barbara. Because life, there's a lot of things thrown at you. Just taking a breather, and just, I think also too, dying to yourself and thinking of the other person and pushing through no matter how tired you are. Sometimes I really believe that God will give you that little extra strength to overcome something if you really need to get it done in a certain time. He gives you that grace, but communication, of course, is key.
Right.
Not hide these things, they come out, and you know what's going on.
Even if we want to communicate that we don't want to communicate. Right?
Well, yeah, what does that mean? Tell me.
Well, just to be able to say, I'm not, if you talk to me right now, I'm going to be cranky and crabby, and I'm going to say things I probably don't really mean, so it's better if we don't talk right now.
Yeah, let's go to bed, and tomorrow when we're fresh and ready, then things will be in a better light, in a different perspective. Yeah, exactly. That's true.
As you said, to be real, which is what communication is all about. But Michael, you have to have something to say about this too.
To be honest with you, that would be something I would struggle with. Like, he can't talk to me because I definitely no, I want to say it, you know what I mean? Because I know I'm going to say something stupid that she's going to really get all upset about, you know what I mean? Rightfully so, but But what I would say, I would expect it to be hilarious. I would expect certain things, or at least in my mind, I would expect things to be funny, you know what I mean? Or expect comedy out of it, you know what I mean?
Breakfast in bed, I do that very often.
You did that twice, but...
What is taking so long? Drive a little bit faster. Why are you
I do not do that, because you're always pinching those pennies.
I think that's essential, you know what I mean? Like a sense of humor. I couldn't imagine marrying somebody who doesn't have a sense of humor.
Yeah, that's something I really love about Michael. He's always making things lighthearted, and I really love it, and he helps me a lot in that way. And I think for me, an expectation, which I see is already starting to happen, is you have these ideas about how your day is going to go or what's going to happen, and I feel like things have been so new, and just learning and experiencing different things and going to new places, and that I would have never thought of could happen, and meeting new people, and it's very exciting. It's really cool to grow with the person and love them, and I feel like I can't think of my day being set anymore and expecting, I'm learning to expect the unexpected, basically.
Right. So, there's no guarantee.
Right. No guarantee of things, and just to kind of, for me personally, to go a little bit more with the flow, because I like to plan things and I like to know what's happening and stuff, and I feel like that's been happening for me, becoming a little bit more fluid and stuff.
And don't forget, a lot of times we're attracted to one another because the other person has what we don't have. And we have a natural sense that's built into our DNA to complete ourselves with the other person. So we kind of look for the things that we don't have. And so, but then that can become an issue because we are then different.
Right. Then there's some conflict that happens,
right.
you know.
Friction.
Yeah,
right.
friction.
Some friction. The way we see life can be very different, but yet we're still supposed to learn from one another, you know. And I think the humor thing is really important. I think that that's what keeps you going, because one of the keys to, I believe, a successful relationship is not to take yourself too seriously. Really not to work on not taking yourself too seriously, and not take one another too seriously, and just kind of give each other what they call a bye or a break. And even if you don't understand why the other person did what they did, to just kind of lay back and say, okay, well, I don't get it now, but it's okay. I'm just going to overlook it. I think that's the most important thing in relationships, to really overlook mostly everything. See it, don't deny it, but then overlook it and don't take it personally.
So today we have Joe, our good friend from the radio show, and he's going to be talking about married life and how him and his wife have been married a couple of years, and the things that they're working through, and communication and role play at home, and what it's like to be married for the earlier phase of being married.
Melissa's leave for Northwell Health ends in another month. Her leave went pretty fast, even though it was like 3 or 4 months. And then mine's can start for like 10 weeks. But then after that, we got to make like decisions on what we're going to do. If we both go back to work, which we have to because it's too expensive to live in New York. Because I work for Northwell Health too. And we got to see, we're going to pay a place, pay somebody from care.com or pay a place. You know,
like
and it's a lot of money and stuff. Even if you go with, we were thinking about maybe going to the one in West Babylon Church. You're talking about patience and discussing stuff and confrontations and what you learn in Pre-Cana. That's another thing, because we have to discuss it, but you have to discuss it in a way that's caring, and you put God into it, and you communicate with each other at all the options and be positive, and then just pick whatever's the best option. Because at the end of the day, we're going to have to pick an option, and we have to ask God for help and be all right with it. And it's not going to be perfect, but it is what it is. And that's the way you got to look at marriage. Pre-Cana does teach you a lot of good things, to learn how to talk to each other, communicate, and ask God for help, and just talk to each other in a friendly way, or just in a loving way. I think the lesson too, like through the years of faith and like learning from Melissa, who before we were going out too, she used to read a lot about the faith, so she knows a lot of knowledge. She used to read books about saints and like a lot of stuff. I just learned from her that even God wants you to be prepared, but at the same time, He doesn't want you to worry about the final decision, like when we have to make it, or any decision. I was just using it as an example for any decision that you might go through as you're getting ready to get married. But you want to be prepared, but at the same time, you don't want to worry either, because some people think it's one or the other. Either you don't worry about anything. God doesn't want us to worry, so why should I prepare? But at the same time, and then you're like, oh, but if I prepare, then why should I worry? It's a combination of both, I think.
How do you get that combination? Like, how do you have
them both? You still got to do the work to preparation, but then when the decision comes, you just gotta, like a band-aid, just rip it off. You just gotta make a decision.
You just gotta do it.
You gotta be able to adapt to stuff too. Since we've been married, going out and had the children, we've always adapted to different things. We were lucky that my parents were watching Eva before we had Lucy, and my aunt the other days, and there was always different schedules. I went in and worked like 7:30, 3:30. Then Melissa works from home sometimes, but then she has to go in on even days and odd days. So there was different schedules based on her being home or going in. We would go in together, then pick them up, or there was some days where I went in by myself and then had to pick up and drop off by myself, and then she was at home or whatever. But we always went with whatever schedule just to get through each day.
Spending time with each other, but like actually living together, after you're married, it's like, that's got to be difficult.
Yeah, because you could go home when you're going out with somebody back to your own house.
Yeah, you could.
Even if you're still living at home with your parents, like I was and stuff, you could go back to your house, your parents' house, or if you have your own apartment, it's still, you're going back to your own separate thing. When you're married, you can't. You have to get used to being with each other.
Yeah,
if you have certain little
you
things
get in a fight when you're dating. It's like, all right, I'm going back to my apartment. I'll see you in in a little while.
But then you got to get used to what each other
now
does.
You can't.
Yeah. If somebody likes to watch TV a lot when they're not working or something, you got to get used to all the different things.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things that Joe talked about was about sharing responsibility and how they've kind of found a way to actually, I think that it works. They've found a way that really works for them. And I love the idea that they're willing to acknowledge what each one can do. You know, like, for example, and I know that now in this generation, there's not that much emphasis on, well, you're supposed to wash the dishes because you're a woman and I'm supposed to, you know, mow the grass because I'm a man. But there's still a little bit of that. But I think the greatest thing that Joe was saying was that if he does the money right and he loves doing the money and figuring that out, then let him do the money. And if Melissa wants to do something like mow the grass, she can mow the grass. So I think doing what we do best and what we love to do and kind of jumping in to do the things that maybe the other person isn't thrilled about doing, I think that's all part of the whole marriage thing, working out. Part of communication too. Not to struggle like, oh, I've got to do this. This is my job. And I find it's very interesting because I thought that we kind of had dealt with all that in the 70s and 80s. But I still see it with couples that I counsel that many times they're still locked into that idea of, well, I should be able to do this and I'm not doing it. And this should be my job. I'm just not a good housekeeper. I hate vacuuming. Well, hey, if your husband likes vacuuming, he can vacuum. And if, you know, you like doing something that painting the fence, why don't you just paint the fence? Kind of thing. Just respecting what each of us can do.
I think that's very healing and very freeing, yes, because when you think about it like that, it's not as much of a burden and a stress of doing the things at home, but it's more of like, okay, it's the reality. You got to get these things done. Let's try to figure out the best way to go about it in a way that could actually be something that maybe the person doesn't even think about, and whereas the other person would be stressed out about doing it, and the other person is like, oh, I did it in 2 seconds and doesn't bother me.
I guess like we've been talking about, you got to always communicate, but we practice doing that when we were going out. Just as long as you guys practice that and continue to practice that leading up to the marriage and stuff, you'll be all right, because then you have something to refer back to. I guess the big thing that I not struggled with, but that was hard, is like the financial stuff. That was for me, because trying to think of how we're gonna put our money together and see how we're gonna use it and pay for stuff. And the wedding, we tried to like budget and pick and choose where we wanted to splurge, but then cut corners on certain things.
Today, I just wanted to introduce, we have Debbie and George from St. Thomas the Apostle, and they're going to be talking about Divine Mercy, the prayer group there, Medjugorje, their amazing pilgrimages that they went on, and just about God's love and how God is working in their lives. There's some great testimonies, great miracle stories that are happening, so I'm so excited to share them with you today.
Having the Lord in your life, especially in a marriage, I think it's a three, not two, it's three is together. It's you, Jesus, and you, and your husband and wife and the Lord together. Three of you make that powerful unity together. And I think that's really important, to have the Lord in your life. And you've been blessed to have a wonderful wife and wonderful children. And I think that the challenge now is that, you always hope for the best for your children. They're older to get their lives. I can remember my parents, worrying about me, what am I going to do? You got to get a job, do this and this. So I think there's a challenge. It's all about trust. Put your trust in the Lord and know that the Lord will take care of them, and they'll have their jobs and their happiness. But I think that's a challenge, just to worry as you get a parent. Oh, you always worry about your kids, like our parents worried about us. I think that's having that faith and having that trust in the Lord, and I think is very important.
I remember like when George and I first started dating, he would pick me up and we'd go to church together. That was a great start, even for our relationship as just boyfriend and girlfriend. And we go to his church, which was in Astoria, and my church was in Astoria. I was Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and he was Immaculate Conception. So we would go every other Sunday. We'd just take turns, go from one church and the next Sunday to the other church. So that basically started our foundation for our relationship. And then through our marriage, it got to the point where you get swamped with all the craziness of life and raising children. And I remember at night we would just say 1 decade of the rosary. That was all, because we were both exhausted. We both knew we had to go to work the next day. But even that one little decade, that just kept us going. And the point of even praying before meals. Even till today, I mean, we're going out tonight with both of our sons for dinner. It's that point where you have to pray. We've always bonded with the Lord through my difficult pregnancy and just raising our boys. One of my boys was very sick when he was in grade school. And just knowing that we were depending on God, we knew that God was there within our marriage. And even through the passing of my dad and George's parents and the challenges that we face, that we have to turn to God. Now we're older adults, but just going through it as young adults and raising children, you need to have Jesus there. You need to, and the Blessed Mother. And there would be just days that I would just talk to the Blessed Mother, like, I'm going crazy. You have to help me. It's just too much. It's just too hectic. And she would bring me that peace. And bringing that to our children. So now we're at a different stage of our life. We're able to do more for the church now because I just retired from teaching. So now I feel like I want to also bring Jesus in a different way to other people, joining different ministries. I just joined the Legion of Mary. Just want to, I visited somebody in a hospital the other day with some friends in a rehabilitation. Just going out now. And I think that's really the change I'm seeing in myself. Now our rosary is not just a decade. Now our rosary is the full rosary every day. And it's the full praying. But it was still within our marriage throughout all the years. And we're married, 33 years now. And we've always put God as number one, no matter what. Our life is not all happy. There are challenges. There are those branches that we're kind of tripping over along the way in our journey of life. Just to know that you have, if you can visualize having Jesus holding your hand, getting you through there, and the Blessed Mother holding you, or I have a connection with St. Faustina and Father Sopochko, just knowing that they're there. And I don't know if I could tell a quick short story, but
yes, sure.
Last February I had gotten the flu, and George was away in California, a death in the family, and I was supposed to go with him, and I wind up getting the flu. So I was by myself. My boys are out of the house, and I'm by myself. And he left on a Wednesday, and Wednesday night, here I am with a major headache, and I'm not feeling well. And I'm like, Lord, and I just prayed, Lord, please, just send me someone to comfort me, to help me sleep, because I have such a headache. And I said, send the Blessed Mother if she's not busy. Send St. Therese, St. Faustina, Blessed Father Michael Sopochko. Send someone to comfort me these next few days while George is away. And I have to say, he did send. But and also one piece of it was, and once I'm okay and George is home, just let me know who it is, because I want to thank whoever it is. So Sunday night, I'm fine. Monday night, I'm fine. Tuesday, Wednesday, George goes home Thursday. Thursday night, I'm in bed and I'm ready to say my prayers. And all of a sudden, I say, and thank you, Father Sopochko, for being with me during these last few nights. And I just laughed because I was like, wait a minute, how did that come out? That was not even in my prayer set, that all of a sudden I'm thanking Blessed Father Michael Sopochko for being with me during those nights. And it made me laugh. And George is like, what are you laughing? I'm like, here, I'm telling Lord, please just let me know who it is so I can say thank you. And I did say thank you without even realizing it. So those are the little things that you don't realize, that God's there with you. You just got to open up to him and just let him in your everyday life, whether it's marriage, whether it's your job, whether it's family issues, whether it's community issues, whether it's this world. You just have to really let him be open to you and you open to him.
They're so inspiring for me. They've been married many years and they have the faith in God at the center of their marriage and relationship, and how the faith has just been an important and constant part of their life, the glue that just held everything together. And I really love how they incorporated prayer in their lives, but they did what they can do, and sometimes they didn't have a lot of time to pray many prayers together, but they had quality, and they had 1 decade of the rosary said with the heart with each other, and that was really powerful because they had young children and things going on. But it's awesome to see how now their relationship, now that their children are older and they have more time now to devote to the church and do different things. So it's really cool to see how their marriage has evolved and how the faith and prayers and how that has been a part of their lives, but in a different way through time.
Yeah, I think that that's important because things do change. Everything is for a season, and to understand, be very flexible during the journey that we take together in this life, to be aware that things do not stay the same, and even our feelings don't stay the same. And sometimes you might feel like almost bored with the other person and kind of have a feeling like, well, same old, but we have to remember that it's not about feelings. It's about making a decision to love. Love is a decision. It's not a feeling. And that's why we say for better or worse, and sometimes we get the worse. So as the kids get older and then the couple is left with kind of, oh, wow, everybody left and here we are. And what happened? And do we still have the same feelings? Or are we so exhausted from kids and making money and trying to do everything we're supposed to do that we don't even know who we are anymore? And that's not a time to give up and be discouraged. That's a time to dig down deep and find that supernatural grace that comes with our marriage. And I think that's very important at every stage to remember that it's not a self-help thing. It's not something that we're supposed to work up all this great effort and figure out and conquer our feelings. It's about really using the supernatural grace that came with our sacrament. That's why it's a sacrament. So it's kind of like having a treasure chest that we can open up and dip into to get all those great favors and blessings and graces. And I don't know if really we're educated as couples to do that, to remember that this isn't a natural endeavor. It's very hard naturally to stay married. Relationships are hell. I mean, they really are hard work. It's very hard to stay married in the natural realm. But we have the best news of all because we understand that it's a sacrament that carries supernatural graces, and we've got to go there and say to the Lord, I can't do this anymore. I need supernatural grace.
Do you ever feel like, Barbara, there was a moment in your life or a couple of moments between you and your husband where you had to really call on that, or you felt...
Hundreds of them. Yeah. Well, Dave always said I never considered divorce, only homicide. Many times.
That's so funny. Only homicide.
But you can't take it too seriously. You just have to really say, okay, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that aha moment when you say, I'm not supposed to do this on my own. I can't even do it on my own. And that's why I've got supernatural grace to do it with.
We need a Catholic and Christian married couples just as badly as we need priests and religious, because marriage is really under attack today. A lot of people are not living together, not getting married, etc., etc., etc. So we have marriages misunderstood and maligned and avoided by many and all of this kind of thing. So it's really very beautiful there.
Okay, so today was an amazing show. We talked about the different stages of preparing for marriage, an early state of marriage in the early years, and a later marriage, and the ups and downs and the problems and solutions. And really, for me, the highlights of this show was the importance of communication, the importance of holding on to your faith and asking God for that supernatural grace to come in and help us through the good and the bad. And when we can't do it ourselves, and asking Him for help. Just realizing, not taking it personally, and being open to growing and dying to ourselves a little bit and seeing it from the other person's point of view, I think is really key too, and being open to learning and growing in a different way with the other person.
Mm-hmm. And I think that it's so important to realize that we have lots of ups and downs in marriage. It's a struggle. It's not meant to be easy. It is hard. It really is hard. It's hard to make that effort to communicate. It's hard to forgive and get over things. It's hard to let go of stuff and not take it personally. All these things are really rough and hard to do. But we need that education of couples such as yourselves before marriage, so that when it happens, you're not ready to throw the whole thing away. I think that's what really is desperately needed, to have education in that realm of, okay, so there's going to be a time when you're not going to feel loving, when you're not going to have anything going on in the passion area, and when you're going to just feel like, how did I ever get involved in this? What was I thinking? You have what was I thinking moments in marriage, provided for by the Lord in the supernatural graces.
So thank you once again for listening to podcast on relationships, and this is Godcast, the Good News Network. You could check us out on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and we have a live radio show that you could listen to every Saturday at 10 a.m. on WGBB radio station. Again, it's WGBB, and you could listen on the radio dial 1240 a.m. or 95.9 FM in New York, or you could listen anywhere using the TuneIn Radio app and listen live through that show on Saturday mornings.
Please don't miss our next podcast because we're going to continue the whole relationship theme, but we're going to be talking about the 4 different kinds of love, which is very essential to understanding communication and how relationships really can lead us closer to one another and in the sense of leading us closer through God. I just wanted to mention Starfish Ministries. Actually, it's called Star of the Sea Ministry right now, and it's really going to encompass a lot of these podcasts and different things that our mission really is to promote the idea that the Lord really has a unique love for each of us, and to encourage everyone to press in and find out what that's all about.
And again, thank you so much for listening and supporting Caterina Viti
and Barbara Campbell.
Stay tuned. We'll see you next time.